Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizen Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate all the amazing people who are working so hard in the trenches across the state of Mississippi to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. And man, what a week it's been, good, dating back to this past weekend and the attempted assassination of President Trump, and then the Republican National Convention. Man, what a week it's been. So much news. And so I couldn't think of a better guy to have this conversation with, someone who's actually fresh back from the convention. He's a host of Middays with Gerard. He's Gerard Gibert. He's a good friend, someone I really enjoy staying in touch with. Gerard, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Ricky. Good to see you.
So when you reflect on the week, as I have all week long on my show, what a way to start the week, man. I mean, have you contemplated, and I'm sure while you were at the convention, it had to have been this sort of undercurrent, this undertone of holy mackerel, what could have been, the horror that we don't know that could have been, had that bullet been about a quarter of an inch to the right.
Yeah.
Was that just something that permeated the convention, how close we came to losing the presidential nominee for the Republican Party?
Yeah, you can definitely detect that in the air at Fiserv Forum. And something else, Ricky, that I noticed, the Mississippi delegation is seated, honestly, best seat in the House with respect to the VIP box where the president and other dignitaries were seated during the convention. And we paid particular attention to his body English. And just his facial expressions, totally different than what we've seen in the past. And why should we expect anything but that, given, as you indicated, how close he came to losing his life? It is life-changing. We're all within, just a millisecond of millimeters changing our life. But, typically Mr. Trump is a very proud person. There's no doubt about that. When you see him, even at 78, it's shoulders back and head up, and just kind of it exudes that and projects that air of, I'm in charge here. And that's one thing, honestly, I like about him, especially representing my country. But not that he's lost any of that, but during some of the speeches, as I would watch, for example, Nikki Haley, during her speech, watching her, clearly his most ardent foe during the primary, stayed in there longer than any other Republican candidate. She did not mince words on her dislike of the president and her warning about what should happen to the country if he should be reelected. But while she was speaking, several times I turned around to just get a sense of what Mr. Trump's reaction was. And he was sitting in his chair with his shoulders kind of forward and his head sort of down, almost as if to say, I'm accepting in a humble way what appears to be an act of reconciliation, as she, of course, delivered a full-throated endorsement for the former president. That's what I'm seeing, more of a human side of him, like I've never seen before. And, I'm no body English expert by any stretch, but just looking at a person's facial expression and their body English, you can get a sense of kind of what their feelings are at that point in time. That's what's different.
Yeah, there was a split screen when Nikki Haley was talking, and I observed the same thing. From the moment he walked into the convention center the first time, and you sense that he was emotional, everyone was emotional. It was emotional. Because listen, man, as it was going down, I was literally watching it with my wife, and she was, I've said this on my show, but she was confused about what she was watching. And I said, Ann, those are bullet shots. That's gunshots. Somebody just shot the president. And she said, "You're kidding." I said, "No, that's the Secret Service on top of him." And, that all started to unwind. Listen, as a former paramedic and as someone who's been around life and death experiences, who had my own little brush with death when I had my very serious heart issue after I took a vaccination that's a whole nother story. But you know what? I talk about it on my show all the time. This notion that we live in the moment, that we can't do anything about yesterday. We can certainly worry about tomorrow, but the one thing that really matters is now, in this moment. And you can't help but understand. I mean, this is providential. There's divine intervention. You can call it whatever you want to call it. When you realize that you were that close, and you look at the geometric graphics that they're putting out now, where one tilt to the head or one, it's shocking how close he came to dying. When you had that experience and it runs through your head, it has to be a life-changing experience. I mean, it just has to be. And certainly we'll see how this this whole presidential cycle candidacy plays out. But it was an incredible moment. How was it, just overall, how was it being at the convention?
It's a blast. It's fantastic. And, is it different because of what happened Saturday? I can't say because this is my first time, but folks that have been to those in the past said it definitely is a different atmosphere. But it's electric. It's upbeat. It's optimistic. It's inspirational. It's energetic. And it's a lot of fun on that basis. I've met so many people. Of course, I think I know virtually everybody in the Mississippi delegation before I got here. We are well represented. I'm honored, humbled to be part of that. Had a lot of great conversations outside of the Fiserv Forum with those folks. But I've met people from other states as well. And just seeing their commitment to the country, to this ticket, is inspirational unto itself. It's a little bit emotional as well. I think the Trump campaign was brilliant and showcasing what are called everyday people, the everyday people segment, if you will, every night has been fantastic. And honestly, Ricky, I think it's the speeches delivered by the Gold Star families, by the two mothers who discussed in an emotional way the loss of their sons. I think that will have more impact on the undecided voters and perhaps even bring across the aisle those that are somewhat tacitly at least committed to voting for President Biden or whomever the nominee is going to be than any of the political speeches. It's brilliant on the Trump campaign's part.
Well, let's actually point out to the listeners that because of timing and being able to get our schedules together, you're there, we're here. We're actually recording this on Thursday. It's going to play on Friday. So apologize that we don't have observations and comments about the speech tonight, but a lot has already unfolded as it relates to the convention. I've made no bones about it. Along the way, I've had issues with Trump and his approach. I haven't had issues with his policies. I've worried about the Republican Party being able to come together. And I think a combination of the events of Saturday combined with what you just pointed out, an expertly choreographed convention, I see it coming together in ways that a lot of people may not have been able to expect. And the irony of all ironies is that the Democratic Party talks about democracy and how Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, and the will of the people has already been established as it relates to Biden. But as the convention is going on, even before the convention started, and certainly since the convention started, the efforts to push Biden out continued. Isn't that ironic that the very party you expected there to be division is coming together, and the party you expected to be together is falling apart? What in the world? And, of course, my wife, Ann, who's a very significant pragmatist, says there's still a long time to go to Election Day. Something else will likely happen. But it is an incredible point in the process we find ourselves at, isn't it?
It truly is. And, historically, the shoes have been on the other foot, as you indicated, where the Republicans have been fractured when we get to the convention, and the Democrats have been aligned. And I don't see any of that. I mean, it is complete and total unity. And that's one of the words I failed to mention as I describe the environment here. But that is just obvious. That is clear that everyone here is totally in support and behind 100% in a concrete fashion behind this ticket. And it's totally incredible. And honestly, it makes you feel good. It's a lot more fun to be part of a unified team than it is to be, I guess, just arguing and in a confrontational posture. It's a lot more fun to be together, and that's what we're seeing. And even Nikki Haley said in her speech, who you'd have to say has been kind of the leading confrontational figure in the Republican Party in terms of her opposition of Mr. Trump. She said, we don't always agree with each other in politics, and certainly I know a lot about that, as it relates to Mr. Trump. But we do agree a good bit of the time, and that's why we need to send him back to the White House. I mean, I thought that was very powerful. Honestly.
I thought it was very powerful, too. Hey, listen, you got a lot more observations, and we've got another segment together. So when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Gerard Gibert. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show as we visit with Gerard Gibert, the host of Middays with Gerard. He's a good friend and someone I've really enjoyed being sort of partners in crime with here at SuperTalk Mississippi Radio. And he's at the Republican National Convention and is there has made a lot of observations about things. But, looking back on the week, one of the observations I have, and I bet there's a buzz about this, is that the Republican bench is pretty darn strong, man. You think about, let's take Ramaswamy's speech. Good Lord, buddy. That was strong. And I could just continue to rattle off. I thought J.D. Vance's speech was terrific. You mentioned Nikki Haley. I thought she was magnanimous in the way she handled herself. And a long list of others. There are some smart people in the wings in this party right now, aren't there?
Yeah, I'd add Glenn Youngkin to that list as well.
Yes, for sure.
He was awesome. It's no secret. I've talked about it on my show. I have been a Vivek Ramaswamy fan for some time. And when he first announced, everybody was saying, who is this guy? And I was telling people that I'm telling you, you're going to be impressed. And how I sort of got introduced to him was he was a regular guest on the Business Channel. Coming from a business background in the biotech world, very successful entrepreneur. And so pre-politics, and I was always impressed with him. But after the George Floyd incident, when every corporation in America was standing up these DEI departments and really going overboard on it, honestly. And he exposed that in his first book called Woke Inc. And I've shared some of those stories on my show, just reading his book. And I got curious and started reading more about these companies. You're seeing a lot of them back off on that now. But he's excellent. He has a knack for really, I think, hitting at the heart of issues. He said, it doesn't matter what your race is or what your party affiliation is. What people want are safe neighborhoods, clean streets, and good jobs. I mean, that pretty much sums it up, does it not? That's what we want. And that anybody can understand that. And that transcends party politics and racial divides and all the other stuff that divide us from a cultural perspective. So he was excellent. I thought Nikki was great just because she was there, honestly. Now, Ricky, you and I both know she may not come were it not for what happened Saturday. And it could have been, you know what? I need to put party and country ahead of myself, which is rare in politics these days, if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that move really sent that message very effectively. But you're right. Our bench is deep. I don't see the same in the Democrat Party, honestly. Yeah. I really don't.
Yeah, you see that. You see that as they try to figure out if they push Biden out. I don't think they can go anywhere but to Kamala. But, I agree. The reality is there's something they're going to be talking about. But, hey, look, back to Vivek Ramaswamy, his ability to communicate. First of all, he's smart as hell.
Yep.
His entrepreneurial talents are uncompromised. Someone once said that if a meritocracy doesn't work somewhere, then it doesn't work anywhere. You just can't. You can't decide when you want to do it. I thought the way he talked about meritocracy and the way we're moving away from that in America, that it's crazy. I mean, it makes no sense that we would do that. And of course, he spoke very fervently about woke. But if you look at every aspect of his speech, what you will conclude is there's no confusion about what he's thinking and how he communicated, because he's such a crystal communicator. And the other thing that I would note is that his cadence of his speeches, everybody always talked about Barack Obama being such a great orator, you know. Vivek has a Obama-like cadence to his speeches, which makes it really pleasant to listen to be quite honest with you. And I think he's actually mastered that during his time as a candidate. But that was something to watch. Not to overdo the conversation around him, but you were a fan of his. I certainly was as well. But, you know, hopefully he gets brought into the administration in some role, because his vision for how to decrease the size of government and the kind of conversations we need to have to push against the management elite in the federal government. We've got to do that, Gerard. This may be our one opportunity. I liken it to when you put a new CEO into a company, and he's got to be the bad guy to clean some stuff up and get it ready for the next out that comes along. These 4 years, Trump's got an opportunity. And if he gets Vivek and other people like him involved in this conversation, pushing really hard, that know how to manage change, who know how to make massive change happen, major abruption is coming.
Yeah, and Doug Burgum, also in the beat.
Oh, for sure.
Sharp as all get out. Known about him, Ricky, since the 90s from the software business. He founded Great Plains Software in 1981. I started my company in 86. We actually sold a competitive product to Great Plains, but I knew of Doug Burgum then. So I guess I kind of have a special attachment and affinity for him because he's a software guy. And back when we were pioneering the IT industry, certainly with the PC revolution, and he was right there in the thick of it, man. He helped create a lot of what we all enjoy today as an entrepreneur. He's brilliant. I look for him to be Secretary of Energy. I really do. And he would be fantastic at that.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Running a state that's rich in energy resources, knows how to manage that. I see him. I don't know where Vivek fits, possibly in the cabinet. He'd be outstanding, as you know. But, you know, the biggest thing is, Ricky, if we get a president that will make these appointments, surround himself with people based on their qualifications, as opposed to what I call filling the chessboard out. I got to have one of those, without any consideration of whether or not they are the best person for the job. We've got to stop that in this country.
I can't agree more, man. It's going to, I tell you, it's more than likely that Trump will be our next president at this point. More than likely.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the fear in the federal government right now? Because they know that he's going to go against the grain.
There's no doubt about it. The managerial class, as I like to call it, is not a fan of someone who wants to come in and shake up the status quo of government, which is so desperately needed. They have been quite comfortable in their trappings and with their situation, and nobody's ever challenged it. No. And it's time for that to happen. I believe a Vivek and a Doug Burgum and a Youngkin, I don't know who else may be in there. Yeah. I think they'll do that. I really do. Marco Rubio. Yeah. They're all prospects to be part of the administration. I think Mr. Trump gets that. I think he will surround himself with advisors that understand. And honestly, Ricky, this wasn't as pronounced in the last two cycles because Joe Biden has exposed it, because he has governed in the opposite approach. And I think that's exposed it. And people now are waking up saying, man, my life is getting affected more by these bureaucrats running these agencies than the Congress, than the people we elect and send to Washington. That ain't how it's supposed to work. Mr. Biden exposed that. And I think Trump and his cabinet, his administration will go in there and tear a lot of that down. I really do look for that to happen.
Well, hey, and look, Gerard, the reality is that You and I have had these conversations before. I come from media. I understand deeply the problems with bias and corporate media and talking heads and all of that. They're going crazy. They're literally going crazy right now. They don't know how to position themselves. They have worked so hard to make Trump out to be the worst thing that could be ever happen to America. And now they've got problems in their own world. And can you only imagine how crazy they're about to go if he gets elected and what happens next? I mean, it's a little scary, to be quite honest with you, because there's a lot of unknowns about the future.
A lot. And you probably seen the president has COVID, probably seen the video of him this morning that all the media is showcasing, showing his difficulty climbing up the steps, having to be helped in a vehicle. This ain't good for him. So it's not only that he's ill, and I feel like he'll likely recover from that. He doesn't seem to have any serious conditions, but I don't think that normal, average, younger person would be affected quite the way he is by this round of COVID. It couldn't have happened at a worse time for him and the party. And now he's indicating, I might be receptive, I think is the word the media is using, to withdrawing. And the walls are kind of closing in on him, where the top brass in the party, sort of led by Pelosi, I believe she's calling the shots. I really do, for the whole party. And now they're imploring him to step down.
And so much for the democratic process, that is for sure. There's so much more we could talk about. I just want to congratulate you on your leadership in the state, the work that you've done in your chair to bring attention to the important issues. As the Republican Party showed, who would have thought they would be talking about family in the way that they're talking about family? Who would have thought they would be talking about blue-collar workers and the workers and not corporate America? Change is good, and we got to have conversations about change, and you've been willing to do that in that chair, and I congratulate you for it. Listen, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
Appreciate it, Ricky. Same to you, man. Thank you.
You bet. This has been Gerard Gibert from Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll see you after this.